If Pixar is known for one thing, it's their original storytelling. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm giving you my ranking of all the Pixar standalone films. Now, there's a fair share of Pixar franchises, and I'm actually going to be talking about those on my Patreon. So if you want to see my ranking of all the Pixar franchises, make sure to become a Patreon member at any phase. That is linked down below, and you can see that video over there. And before I give you guys my ranking of these solo movies, as Turning Red is a new addition to the collection, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below your ranking of these standalone Pixar movies, and make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos like this one. So coming in dead last for me has to be The Good Dinosaur. This is my least favorite Pixar movie, and the Pixar movie that I think is actually the worst. It feels like a shell of what Pixar used to be, and honestly just feels like any other animation studio put their name on this title, and it was not attached to Disney or Pixar, which is unfortunate, because yes, the animation is gorgeous and it lives up to that Pixar standard, but the storytelling should be so much better and pack much more of an emotional punch, when in reality, it feels kind of like a shallow remake of The Lion King. Not far in front of The Good Dinosaur is going to be Brave, a movie that features a Disney princess in Pixar, which I think is really cool because that's not something we usually get. Merida, obviously a pretty cool protagonist in that movie, but this movie loses me after about the first 20 minutes because I really like the lore and the world building of this unique, fairy tale kind of mythical medieval side to a Pixar Disney film, but when everyone turns into a bear, it loses its focus in my opinion, and the movie just meanders too much. It's very forgettable, it's not easy to get through on rewatch, and it's one of those Pixar titles that just kind of falls under the radar, unfortunately. It's just not that great when you've got all these other Pixar movies to compare it to. Next on my list is going to be 2021's Luca, a movie that is actually kind of divisive, I think. I know a lot of people said it was great, a lot of people said it was alright. I'm in the meh to bad tier when it comes to Luca. I think the last 20-30 minutes of this movie are the most remarkable part. It really picks up steam there. It has that adventure that was missing for the first hour, but it was almost too little too late for me because yes, it's a gorgeously animated movie. I love water. It's a very weird thing. Like Coco fans, blue ass water, it's a real thing.
Blue ass water.
But Luca is just a movie that's not really my cup of tea. It's one that I couldn't really emotionally connect with. The supporting characters don't really have much to do here. And the thing about Luca is there's so much emphasis on him leaving the water and it being such a threat to his life. But in reality, his family ends up leaving the water anyway, so it was never really that big of a deal. So the stakes that were set up early on in this movie are actually false, in my opinion, so it just doesn't really have as much weight as you would hope. And Luca is fairly forgettable compared to most of the Pixar catalog. Now you're officially entering hot take territory because next on my list is WALL-E. I know this is most people's top 5 to top 10 favorite Pixar movies. This has always been a bottom of the barrel Pixar movie to me. Ever since I first tried to watch it years ago, I couldn't even get through it in my first sitting. It took a few times for me to really fully watch this movie, and I'm not crazy about it. I understand it. It's got a great message about protecting Earth and the environment and where humans could be headed if we don't make change soon. So I totally understand that, and I'm on board with that message. But I don't care for the characters, and the delivery of the story is just not for me. It's gorgeously animated like all these Pixar movies, and I know a lot of people disagree on this one, but WALL-E is just not for me. It's a bore and a snooze fest, unfortunately, and one of the least memorable Pixar movies in my eyes. Next is actually going to be their newly released film, Turning Red, which, to be honest with you, has kind of regressed a little bit for me since I first watched it a few days ago. It's not a bad movie by any means, but it's not really that great either. It's kind of right down the middle for Pixar. I think the animation is great yet again. I mean, I'm going to say that with every single Pixar movie, and it perfectly captures the awkward nature of puberty, especially when you're a 13-year-old in middle school. But there are certain aspects of the film that don't really work for me, kind of got under my skin and irritated me a little bit. I wanted to love this movie. A lot of people love this one as well, and that's the great thing about movies is we can all disagree and have our opinions on them, and Turning Red was just a fine movie. Check out my full review for my in-depth thoughts. Next is going to be Soul, a movie that features some outstanding music and a great score. I'm still salty that it won the Oscar while Tenet didn't even get nominated for Best Original Score, but that's a conversation for another time. I like the messages this movie has to deliver about not taking life for granted and really having an appreciation every single day when you wake up, but the movie kind of loses me in the second act when it goes away from trying to be this really mature adult movie to kind of being a silly, goofy kids movie, which, yes, it's a Pixar movie, it's a kids movie, but make up your mind. That's kind of where I'm at with Soul. It's almost like one half is this really profound movie that feels like it could literally be live action, and then the second half, he gets his soul switch with a cat, and they're running around the city. It's kind of goofy, and then it comes back full circle a little bit in the third act, but it just really loses me in that second act and makes it a little wishy-washy as an overall movie. Soul's a movie that I know a lot of people love, and I truly want to deep down inside. It's just not that great when I compare it to the rest of the Pixar movies, and as its own standalone film, it's all right. Next on my list is going to be the second ever Pixar movie, A Bug's Life. I think this is one of the most overlooked Pixar movies. It's got that classic animation that's not as great or groundbreaking as the current day Pixar animation, but it still is gorgeous to go back and look at. And it gives you this sense of nostalgia when you watch A Bug's Life or even that first Toy Story, because there are some flaws in the animation, but that kind of adds to the experience. This is a classic, timeless tale. I mean, we've seen it done multiple times in Seven Samurai and the Magnificent Seven films. Hell, there's even episodes of Clone Wars that are based on this story. But that's because it is so resonant with every age group and every generation of people. And I think Pixar did a really good job of capturing this for the big screen. I think that Hopper is a really good villain in this movie. It's a charming Pixar movie that I think a lot of people kind of forget about because of how great a lot of the early Pixar film was. This one, again, kind of goes under the radar. So before I give you guys my top 5, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and check out my full ranking of every Pixar movie, which I will link up above. So next on my list is Coco, which is right outside my top 10, I want to say. And while I recently rewatched it and I found it to drag a little bit, I think I was just really tired when I watched the movie because I remember loving this when I saw it in theaters. I bought the Blu-ray and I loved it then. There's just something so charming about this film, from the music to the camaraderie between the main characters, and I love the way it captures Dia de los Muertos and the family vibe, and it's a real cultural impact film. This is a great one from Pixar, and if you don't tear up at the end, what's wrong with you? Because the waterworks are going, especially when he starts singing Remember Me. Ooh, it makes your heart warm, but it also shatters it at the same time. This is a very family-heavy movie, and it's one that carries a big emotional punch from Pixar. Great movie. Next is going to be Inside Out. I think this is the most innovative Pixar movie to date, as we get to go inside a teenage girl's mind and see her emotions go on an adventure inside of her brain. That concept alone blows my mind, and I mean, thinking about my emotions in my head and what they look like, who knows? That'd be a pretty funny video idea, though, to cast the emotions in my head. There are moments in this film, much like Coco, that get the waterworks going, especially regarding Riley's imaginary friend Bing Bong, but Inside Out really is a testament to Pixar's original storytelling and how effective it can be as everyone grows up. Just like in Turning Red and in Inside Out, everyone can pull something from this movie and relate it to their own life, as we all have to go through changes. You know, Riley's moving, she's having to make new friends, she's going through puberty. All of these things we've had to deal with in life, so it's a very relatable movie, and it is one of Pixar's most original ideas by far. And I also have to mention Michael Giacchino's score in this movie. The track Bundle of Joy, perfect. It's one of the best tracks Michael Giacchino's ever composed. Next on my list is going to be Onward, and in my Pixar ranking, I called this the most underrated Pixar movie to date, and I really think this because it came out in March of 2020, like the week before the pandemic really hit, so a lot of people just didn't get the chance to see this one, or they kind of brush it off. This is a movie that hits me right in the feels. It's a brother story from start to finish, and I have an older brother, so it's always a movie I can pull from, and every time I've watched this movie, it's made me cry at the end. It's a true adventure from start to finish. I love Ian and Barley as characters and seeing their, relationship develop throughout the film, but it also kind of talks about moving on to the next chapter of life, which is a theme we see in a lot of these Pixar movies. The voice acting in this movie is fantastic, and it's just a really fun Pixar adventure. Feels like that classic early Pixar, even Walt Disney animation from like the Renaissance era, and I wish more people would give this one a chance, because I know there's a small group of us who love Onward and have it in the top 10, and if you love Onward, let me know in the comments down below. My runner-up for my favorite standalone Pixar movie is Up. The first 10 minutes of this movie, everyone always talks about because, yes, it's an emotional wreck. It's its own short story in a way, but everything after this is also really impactful and important as well. As we see Carl Fredricksen, having to come to terms and grieve over the loss of his wife. He's never going to get over it because it's the true love, but we get to see him kind of take on this fatherhood role for Russell over the course of the movie. It's got a really sweet ending. Of course, Doug is a hilarious side character, and there's so much adventure in this movie. Adventure is out there. That's something I think that we should all kind of put into our own lives, as life is an adventure and we should all go out there and take risks because we only get to live once. Also, the score of Michael Giacchino won the Oscar for Best Original Score, rightfully so. It's immaculate. It's one of my favorite scores of all time, and it triggers my girlfriend Cam to cry every time she hears it, especially the track Married Life. It really packs an emotional punch. This movie would not be the same without the score. It is a perfect movie, near my top 5 favorite Pixar films. But if you haven't guessed it by now, my favorite standalone Pixar movie is Ratatouille. I always gush about this movie any chance I get. It's a movie that makes me want to chase my dreams. Anyone can cook is a line that resonates with me, because if you have a dream, go out there and chase it with your all. Again, kind of bouncing off what I said about Up, we only have one life to live, and if you have dreams, chase them, because regret is something I don't think any of us want to ever deal with in life, and Ratatouille reminds me of that every time I watch it. Les Festines is my happy song. It takes me to my happy place. This movie just gives off great vibes, positive vibes. It makes me feel happy inside. It warms me up like a big hug. It's between this and Toy Story 3 for my overall favorite Pixar movie. It goes back and forth every single day, but right now, Ratatouille is at that top spot. But that's going to do it for my ranking of all the Pixar standalone films. I'll have more to talk about in years to come, so I'll definitely probably redo this video, but make sure to hit that like button, and if you want to see my ranking of all the Pixar Pixar franchises, become a patron at any level. There are 3 different phases that is linked down below. It's a way to help support the channel as I take on this new endeavor in my life and this new journey, but it's also a way to get more content and get to know you guys more on a personal level. I'm really enjoying growing that community over there. Again, comment down below your favorite standalone Pixar movie, subscribe and hit that notification bell, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.